Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular bi-monthly town board meeting for the town of Tuxedo for Monday, August 14th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. As always, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Let me just review the agenda items. We need to review a temporary sign permit for Masker Orchards. Same thing for Renaissance Fair. A resolution to consider a bid for the Highway Department garage floor rehabilitation. Resolution approving Shane Smith from the Highway Department to attend a basic wastewater certification course. And I understand, Jay, the resolution to introduce local law short-term rentals and schedule a public hearing, we're going to table that?
Yes, please. We're working on the final draft, and I've been working with Howard and Amy, and as is not surprising, there are still some legal questions that need to be hammered out to make sure it does what we want it to do. So instead of doing this prematurely, I'd like to take another week or so to get that sorted out so that we have a clean draft that we can review and deal with.
Yeah, I think the main message here, I would hope residents would understand that this is not simple local law. We want to make sure we get it right and circulate it to the public for public comment, and then we'll figure out from the wisdom we collect from the public
if we need to make any additional changes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Then we have an executive session. I'll ask our attorney to just review the rationale behind that. Has to do with tax issues and a pending lawsuit. So Howard Prater will opine about that when we get to that. So I'd like to just launch into these resolutions. And we will do the executive session as it shows up on the agenda after we finish these 4 resolutions.
Ken,
Yes, Howard.
public comment on agenda items.
Oh, sorry, comments, public comment on agenda items? We don't have any public here in the room. I see we have about 4 call-ins. Okay, I'll take silence as golden, and we'll just move forward. I would expect there isn't much comment on these anyway. But you can ask questions when we get to them. So the first resolution is to approve a temporary sign permit for Masker Orchards. I'll make a motion, ask for a second in a moment, that the town board hereby issue a special sign permit to Masker Orchards, 129 Edgemere Avenue, Greenwood Lake, New York, for a maximum of 7 directional signs measuring 14 inches by 22 inches to be placed at the below listed locations for a period commencing late August 2023 and ending no later than November 15th, 2023, at which time all signs must be removed. So we have, I think these are the same spots they ask for every year. Route 17, just up from Tuxedo's southern border. On Route 17, near the turn to Route 17A. At the base of the ramp on Route 17A. At the top of the ramp on Route 17A. On Route 17A, across from the top of the ramp by the parking lot. On Route 17A, just before the Ren Fair. And on Route 17A by Benjamin Meadow Road. A Masker Orchard will remit a total of $175 for the permit to the town clerk. Marissa, these are the same locations every year, right?
Yes.
And the fee is according to the schedule?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. Open for town board discussion. Anything?
Nope.
Rob, you don't have any problem with these signs, do you?
I like apples.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hello.
Maria May is participating remotely. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge that earlier, Maria.
Yes, I'm taking.
You're in the Jersey Shore, is that correct?
Yes.
Any further, and she'd be in the Delaware Shore.
Oh, yeah. So Cape May?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Sorry, was I not supposed to let people know that?
Nope. It's fine.
The dog seems to second it. Okay, second agenda item, resolution to approve the temporary sign permit for the Renaissance Fair. I'll make a motion, ask for a second in a moment, that the town board hereby issues temporary sign permits to the New York Renaissance Fair for 2 directional signs measuring 8 feet by 8 feet to be placed at 965 Route 17 Southfields and 538 Route 17 Tuxedo, New York, for the months of August through October, and the design and wording depicted on the applicant's sample on file in the town clerk's office. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Deirdre Murphy. Open for town board questions, comments?
Is this pretty much the same design that they've always done?
Same exact locations, and they've already sent in payment for theirs.
And the last one had the permit fee. Do you know how much they're paying for that, or is it on?
It's $25 per sign,
Oh, even for that largest?
yes. Mhm. Since it's in the category of temporary,
Ah, got it.
they're
What
$25
about all the
each.
signs that say, this is not the way to the Renaissance Fair? Who does those? Us?
That's a good question. I can confirm, I don't have I don't have any temporary sign permit applications
Those
before.
are probably, those are probably
For those?
private signs and
Neighborhoods.
neighborhoods,
lunch.
and I'm gonna say that's political speech, so don't go there.
Can we, well, I don't know how to do this, but is there any way we can stipulate that the left lane going west will be kept for local traffic? I know that was the plan last year,
I
and
would
there's
just,
no way.
I just ask that,
We'll
for
do
this item, yeah.
Okay.
So this has to do with these 2 signs. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Maria? Okay. Agenda item number 3, resolution to consider bid proposal for the highway garage floor rehab. I'll make a motion, ask for a second, that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby accepts bid proposal for the highway garage floor rehab submitted by Culbertson Company of New York at $162,821. Do I have a second on that
I
motion?
will second that.
Seconded by Jay. Open for town board discussion.
So I have a question. How long, the deterioration came from salt, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how long does it last before the salt really starts to erode?
This or
Yeah.
the concrete itself?
This,
I am not sure. I am not familiar with
it's
this.
a new kind of a.
This is basically
This-
like an epoxy
Yeah.
sealer. I don't know if it's actually epoxy or a different resin.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
which then soaks into and closes the pores of the concrete,
So it doesn't allow the salt to,
doesn't allow the salt in.
right,
It itself is pretty chemically inert. I mean,
Yeah.
if you wanted to make a salt container that wouldn't rust, you'd line it with this stuff.
okay.
So, you know, in new construction, if we were building this garage now, I'd be recommending that we put this stuff on it immediately after the slab cures. But
Okay.
these products weren't really around for, we'll say that. There were some, they weren't as good, et cetera, et cetera. And it was, it
But
might have
they're
been
inert.
that might have been value engineered out, but in any event,
They're inert.
they are inert,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So the other question is, I'm sorry, but I like this stuff. So the question is, so where it's eroded, you're going to re-pour the concrete?
I.
Well, we are.
We
yeah.
are
So
following.
it says
Yes.
here, It says, excuse me, Rob, shot blast, scarify and grind all concrete surfaces.
Yeah.
I have this
Oh,
from,
I
okay,
can't-
yeah.
it's-
so you have
Thank
that
you.
too?
Yeah, thank you.
So,
You need two pairs of glasses to read this one.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Maybe-
So they're gonna sandblast it and then they're gonna re-pour the surface.
We're not replacing all of the surface.
That's my
One of the
question.
reasons that we're doing this now and pushing so hard is it's not that bad yet.
I see.
So there are some areas, especially around, cut seams in the concrete or around the trench drains
Where
where
it
it's
can seep
actually
in.
chipped.
Yeah. Okay.
And those are gonna get rebuilt. Most of it, it's just the top surface of the concrete is starting to erode. And so basically what happens is the coating winds up being a little thicker there. We don't
Okay,
need
but
to do
it's
concrete
gonna,
repairs.
yeah, because it's even, because it's an even coat.
Exactly, so it'll
Okay.
become leveled out and even, and
And it's a resin.
this is a resin,
Yeah.
right? This is, it looks like paint going on, smells, don't go over there for that day, smells bad.
Okay.
well, what's really critical is to protect the radiant heating coils that are embedded in the floor.
Okay.
And so that's why the action needs to be taken now before it actually gets down to that
Before
level.
it gets down to that, before we start seeing real mechanical damage,
To the
full,
floor.
full thickness breaking
Yeah.
of the concrete and things
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just wanted to understand.
Oh, sure, but, and you can see on this, the resin alone is over $50,000.
Well, resin is made out of oil and that stuff's still expensive.
Yeah.
So this is a specialty company, because we got one bid, right?
This, we got a number of companies that collected bid packages. We only got one that submitted a bid.
Ah.
So we got a whole bunch of no bids. That's a different discussion we need to have, and we need to start, I think, not to get too far off topic, but we need to start looking at where we're advertising, how we're advertising contracts, because we seem to have a pattern in town of not getting good responses to our RFPs and our requests for bids. But that's a different discussion. We've met the procurement rules. We put it out, we had multiple people examine the contract. We had only one bid submitted, but
And Sean did his due diligence of,
Sean and Howard have both done their due diligence. All those boxes have been ticked, so.
and Sean, in conversation with me, had good things to say about this vendor, that they're
I'll take your,
capable of, yeah.
I mean, I don't know them from Adam's cat, but they probably don't know me either, so.
Okay.
I don't do this work.
Well, I think, not taking action could set us up for,
Deferred maintenance never saves your money,
Right.
only this week. The only other thing I would add to this is that I would add the line that we always forget, which is that you're authorized to sign the contract.
Okay.
The supervisor is authorized to sign the contract.
Howard, did you want to comment anything on that? I know you reviewed this bid and checked all the boxes.
Yeah, the bid is in proper form. It is complete and complies with all of the requirements for competitive bidding and is in appropriate form for board action.
So adding to the motion that Jay seconded is the advisory that the supervisor has the authority to sign off on this bid if we so approve it now. Any further comment or question from town board members? Are we prepared to vote? I am. I'm good.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Maria?
Aye. Aye.
Agenda item number 4, resolution approving Shane Smith to attend basic wastewater certification course. I'll make a motion, ask for a second, that the town board of Town of Tuxedo hereby approves Shane Smith to attend basic wastewater certification course hosted by Jamestown Community College from August 14th to the 25th for a cost of up to $5,000. This course will provide instruction for basic wastewater operation to individuals seeking to become certified, and follows the DEC curricular guide for wastewater treatment plant operators. It's a 2-week course, $1,595. Room including breakfast, $1,902.36. Food up to $50 a day, $600. Mileage, 632 miles at 65.5 cents per mile. So at a cost not to exceed $5,000. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Seconded by Deirdre Murphy. Any dialogue on this? I'd like to just start by saying, the town continues to need to operate the old wastewater treatment plant until we finalize the remedy to the collection system and get the flow into the new plant under the threshold of 100,000 gallons per day. We've been trending in that direction, but still the collection system needs a lot of work, and we do have the continuing responsibility to maintain the old plant. I think it's an important step, Rob, to have somebody. It used to be that we had, at the highway department, you had somebody who was licensed to operate
There's always a town employee that
a
operates.
class 1,
Yes.
which is the lowest level of
Right.
maintaining, but,
Well, yes, because it's
The
a
old
class 1 plant.
Right.
The new plant is a 3A. So with the 8 hours, he has to take another week, but that's down the road, and he has to have a certain amount of time as working in a 3A plant or apprenticing in a 3A plant to get a 3A license. Or he has to go and finish his college up and get another year of biology, which will enable him to be a 3A licensed.
this action is just to get us started, basically.
This is getting it started. It's getting a town employee with a sewer license. And down the road, I think the ideal situation for the town would be to have 2 licensed employees, not outside companies, that we could probably save quite a bit of money on operation, maintenance and all that, and have people on staff that can come to an emergency or whatever the case may
Well,
be.
even in communicating with the H2O people over there, obviously it's beneficial. We're still responsible for maintaining the collection system of the Hamlet sewer system, so having somebody that can talk
Well,
the talk.
H2O or somebody else that's running the plant, because I envision, once the town fully takes it over, they get an RFP for that also.
Right.
There are numerous sewer plant operators that would bid on that contract, which would probably considerably lower the cost of operating the sewer plant. That being said, it would be nice to have people in-house that can do it. So possibly you don't have to go out at some point.
So what would be Shane's role now, as soon as he's certified?
Well, he would be class 1 certified, so he could basically take over the old plant.
The old plan, so we wouldn't need H2O?
No, you would need H2O, you wouldn't need environmental consultants.
Oh, I meant, that's, yeah.
Right, and that's what,
environmental.
$8,000 a month or something like that. You could cut his cost, and the union contract's $1 an hour, additional $1 an hour, so you would cut that down to, that rate. Instead of $8,000 a month, you would bring it down to 40 times 4 is $1,600 a month, for a plant operator.
And one person can do that?
Well, I think he said 2, right? He said
Well, one
two.
person
Oh.
can do that. One
No.
person can
One
do it.
person's doing it now.
Because we always had one person doing it. The problem is, after the one person left, we had a person that didn't have the license. And then he was operating the plant. That's where the trouble came in, because that's when Joe Fung came and
That's the DEC.
DEC, and he looked for the license, and we didn't have the license, so we had to run out and get somebody with a license to operate the plant.
It's mostly testing and,
Right, testing.
Testing the
check-
water,
check- Right,
filling the
check, making
reports.
sure the pumps are running and
I mean, the only solution is,
actually, the
Yeah,
only
go
thing
through
that'll
plant.
be going through that plant is the overage that's going into the new plant. So once we get that I taken care of, that plant's gonna be demolished, and you won't even have that plant to take care of. And that's a whole nother.
He needs a different license for the new plant.
oh, yeah.
Yes.
Let's be clear, we're not looking to push.
Right,
East
to
or
take
West.
over the new
Let's be
plant.
clear about that.
Right,
I just
right.
want to make sure that
That's long-range goal.
that's
Yeah.
way
This
long.
is, but this is also the first step to
To
getting
a
that.
longer
It's a
range.
it's
Yeah,
a
I get it.
graduated,
Yeah, stepping
level
stones.
of complexity and responsibility kind
Right,
of thing.
and having experts on hand.
And it doesn't hurt to have trained and certified people
No,
Right.
on our staff.
nope, it's a good idea.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Tell him to study hard and do his homework. Just because you're away at college, he still has to study hard and do his homework. Has it? Okay. Very good.
Is that what you do to your children?
So we have on the, next online is the executive session, Howard. We also have the tax certiorari. I think we wanted to have some of the tax certiorari discussion in executive session prior to. So Howard, could you just explain the two issues that were going into executive session, attorney consult regarding?
Yes, you have two pending lawsuits that the town is involved with. And you're going into executive session pursuant to the exception to the open meetings law, which allows the board to go into executive session for purposes of discussing pending litigation. One of the litigated matters is a tax cert, and although that appears on the agenda for approval, there are certain items that need to be discussed with the town board before you take action on that resolution. The second item that will be the subject of the executive session is discussion about the lawsuit involving DiMarino Trucking and the town of Tuxedo. And that is subject of discussion for purposes of updating the board on the status of that litigation.
So I'd like to make a motion that the town board go into executive session. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Jay Reichkot. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just for the public, I would think this could probably be done in 15 minutes, but I can't guarantee it. So,
First.
sorry?
It would be a
It
first.
would be a first, but we'll do our best.
Ken, do you want me to call?
Um,
Can I call you?
yeah, I gotta have to figure this out, so,
She can call me.
yeah, you call Jay's cell phone.
Okay.
I'll patch in Howard, and Amy, and then eventually I'm going to have to call,
Are you going to be called Kara?
Kara. Well, might not need to. We'll talk
Okay.
to you first, Howard.
Okay.
7:55 PM. No actions were taken in the executive session. But we will now move on to the resolution settling of tax certiorari claim. I'll read into the record. At a meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Tuxedo, County of Orange, State of New York, held at Town Hall in said town on the 14th day of August 2023. Whereas LR Tuxedo Development Group LLC has commenced a tax certiorari proceeding against the Town of Tuxedo in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Orange for the following years: 2023, 2024 tax assessment year bearing Orange County Index Number EF004603-2023. Whereas it appears from the recommendation of the Town Assessor and Kara J. Cavallo Esquire of J&G Law LLP, Counsel for the Town of Tuxedo, in the aforesaid proceedings, upon a thorough investigation of the claims, that further proceedings and litigation by the town would involve considerable expense with the attendant uncertainty of the outcome, and that the settlement of the above matter as more fully set forth below is reasonable and in the best interests of the town. And whereas LR Tuxedo Development Group LLC are willing to settle this proceeding without interest, costs, or disbursement in the following manner. Number one, that the proceeding for the 2023 tax year be compromised and settled by the assessment being reduced from $5,326,392 to a total assessment of $4,367,641, for a total reduction in assessment of $958,751 for tax map numbers 214-135, 214-138, 214-139, and 214-134.2. Number two, that the petitioner's real property taxes on said parcel above described for the 2023-2024 school taxes and for the 2023 county and town taxes be adjusted accordingly, and petitioner be reimbursed for any overpayment or be credited with the corresponding decrease in taxes as the case may be. Number three, that the assessment for the 2023 assessment year shall be reduced to $4,367,641 with the provisions of real property tax law 727 to apply. Now, be it therefore resolved that the proposed settlement as set forth and described above is hereby accepted pursuant to Section 68 of Town Law, and it is further resolved that Jim Davies, Assessor of the Town of Tuxedo, and Kara J. Cavallo Esquire, on behalf of J&G Law LLP, be and they hereby are assigned as the officers of the town who shall apply for such approval pursuant to the aforesaid section and law. And be it further, on a motion by myself, ask for a second for the foregoing resolution. We'll take a vote in a moment. I just wanted to open this up for town board discussion and also further explanation by a town attorney. So I'll start. So Howard, this was really triggered by the additional units being approved by the town board in the amended special permit. I think you're muted, Howard, sorry.
Yeah, it's that, and even more broadly, it's to reflect the fact that those parcels now have special permit approval. And that approval in and of itself adds value. So it's to reflect both the increased number of units and the special permit approval on the vacant land. The land's all still vacant. So this is a baseline number that will be carried forward. And once there's any construction on the properties, then the taxes will go up appropriately to represent the improved values.
Any questions on the town board? I mean, we did review this with our attorney.
Yeah, I mean, my only comment is it's important to remember that we didn't get everything that we asked for, but we still got a significant increase in the value of this property, which translates to.
Yes, it's still,
$180,000.
Right.
yeah, it's still a substantial increase over what the
Yeah.
property
That's
had
the
been
base.
assessed in the prior year, 2022.
So this is just a further evaluation of the vacant land, and of course, as they build, that's when the real value comes to be assessed, when there's development.
Yes. And just so the board's comfortable and clear, nothing in this settlement affects the Hamlets or the Tuxedo Farm Sewer District obligations. So those continue unaffected.
Any further comment before I ask anybody? If I understand from the town board, any questions?
I mean, the only other thing I'd say is if they hadn't taken this action, we would have known we left money on the table.
Okay, I'll deem it appropriate. I see Mary Gretzer has her hand up. Mary, you can
Yeah,
speak.
I would just like you to, what is this land? I mean, you're being a little mysterious about this. Is this part of Tuxedo Farms?
Yes.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
all
yeah,
Tuxedo Farm.
it's all Tuxedo Farms.
All of Tuxedo Farms?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a whole lot bigger than you're making it sound.
No further comment or questions from the board?
Nope.
All in favor?
Was there a second?
Aye. Oh, go ahead.
Was there a second?
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay.
Good catch.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Maria? Aye. Very good.
We got it.
I have on page 5 of the packet a resolution to approve a purchase of a prefabricated shed for a cost up to $5,000. Is there a resolution, or we're just gonna make it up as we go along?
What's the purpose? Is
Uh,
it for the recreation?
What kind of shed are you looking at? I looked into sheds today, wooden shed. Do we have a dimension? Do you have a size? Do you have anything?
The ones that I looked at were like 10 by 10.
Because I was looking at 10 by 20 and a 12 by 20. That was from Foot's Sheds up in Goshen, on Route 6, going north there. 8125 and 8750. So that's a 12 by 20 shed with a garage door on the end.
Is that with a floor?
Yes, I think, so the issue here, if we can take a step back, and Maria, you can sing out if I'm getting this wrong.
Thank you.
If you look to your right, those of you sitting in the room, we have a certain amount of equipment from recreation, and we can't store it at the high school. And there were some concerns about the available storage locker that we used to use over at Highway. And there's been some hurried discussion about what to do with this stuff so it's preserved. It's not a small amount of equipment, and it's certainly valuable,
Expensive.
expensive. So the thought was to get a shed. There's been several options looked at. I don't think we've done enough, and I'm not throwing any rocks here, but I don't think we've done enough determination of what we need, what we want to put in this. Because there's also been some talk about needing additional storage here at Town Hall, or for things in Town Hall, like archives and,
That I would hope would be way more secure, but.
so like I'm saying, there are some
So you need an
questions
overall
about.
plan, is what
We
you're
need a
saying.
better plan
Right.
before we start throwing money at it.
Well, there's also
Right.
Christmas decorations. I mean, this
Right.
is just the summer camp stuff, right?
Right, understood.
And there's grids for,
What about everything that's in the recreation room now, that's approximately 20 by 30? What about all the old recreation stuff? It's all garbage? The golf clubs, the kayaks, the
I'll come up.
basketball hoops, the tables, yeah, all the stuff that's in there. And then you have a lot of stuff like that, that we are considering no good, throw it out, garbage, surplus, that something has to come. But if somebody goes through there and says, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good, where is that gonna go? In the same shed?
Right, we have a lot of
Well-
questions at this point. We don't have a lot of answers. I'm sorry, Maria, you were getting ready to say something.
No, I was gonna say that I did try, several times to get together with you, Rob, but you were on vacation, we had camp going or whatever. I do think that some of the things like the golf clubs, for example, they have wrote in pieces on the bottom. So unless, I don't know, if there's a way of, dealing with them. The kayak and all those other things. I mean, I don't think we went through everything there that was usable for camp this year. And some of the things are definitely not, things that we need to get rid of, like, the old shirts that have wrote in pieces on it, stuff like that. There was also a lot of other things that were left open. Those things have to be thrown away, I think. But those things like the kayaks and stuff like that, we don't have a use for them at the moment, but that doesn't mean that we won't have a use for them in the future.
Are they
So I
gonna be-
think-
Maria, would you store them where the mice are, or would you store them in the new?
No, I think
Shed.
whatever belongs to recreation that we decide we can keep should be stored in the new shed. So everything is there, for now, for the future.
So
So-
then my point is that you're gonna need something a little larger than a 10 by 10 shed. Ken.
So the 12 by 20?
So a 12 by 20, I think at the moment would be, would suffice.
So we're talking more like 9,000.
Well, yeah,
5,000.
I mean, we did
don't
look
know.
at other things. We looked at, for
Storage
example,
areas do we have?
Yeah, I mean, didn't we just put a new roof on, I mean, I
Has a
understand.
new roof on it, absolutely. I thought for not that much money, we would power wash it out, fix everywhere where mice are coming in and that type of thing. But
this is what,
I don't think we've gone that far yet into the,
Can it be refurbished to be usable, since we spent all that money
I
on the roof
believe
and-
we can. I believe it can, yes. But
we have several questions that need to be answered. The first question that needs to be answered is, what all are we looking to store? I don't think we have a good handle on that. We know this stuff, we know that there's some stuff at the highway facility now that needs to be gotten rid of. Some of the stuff may be salvageable. We need to do that exercise, then we can look at the pile of stuff, and then we can decide whether or not the facility at highways can be properly secured and, secured against theft, secured against water, secured against mice, and it's usable.
yeah, and
Or
the thing is,
not.
like, I'm sorry, Jay. So the thing is too that, recreation is not just camp. I mean, camp has the most stuff. But for example, we have a clock for the races. We have borders to designate like the ends of the races. We have equipment that we're gonna use for the fall
Christmas.
festival, things like that. Christmas,
Agreed. We
yeah,
have-
exactly.
It's not just the camp stuff. I think that while it's, not the highest and best use of that corner of the room, that stuff will certainly sit there for a few days or a couple of weeks
Few
until we
meetings.
determine what we need to do with it and what our best option is. And I'd say we should
Right.
do that research and make a decision,
Yeah,
this time in 2
right,
weeks.
right. I
So
agree.
it's cleaning, it's lighting,
There's lights in there, there's clean. I think probably a day you could have it secure from mice and cleaned and prepared.
How
so
about-
that-
Why don't we try that?
But
How,
you
how
can-
about the steps? The steps were rotted.
They're already fixed and brand new, Maria.
Okay, great.
They're done. I'm not letting anybody walk up a broken step.
Well,
That's, you know,
it's two, there's two, there's 50-50 chance, right? Either we can look at it calmly and say, this is gonna work, or we'll look at it calmly and say, this isn't gonna
Right.
work, we gotta do something else.
right.
But
And
I don't think that we've had,
I don't,
I'll go out
who-
there.
I don't know who wants to make that decision. I
I'll go
do
out
not
there.
want to make it, but I know that we have a room full of stuff that should be stored with this stuff wherever this is gonna find a home.
Right.
That's-
Well, how
that's-
many?
I agree.
How many other storage areas do we have?
Well, there's
Do we have more
four,
than one?
there's four, I have a wood shop.
Okay,
I have the records room that doesn't have any mice in it. It's very similar in size and thing to the recreation room.
okay.
And then on the end, I have the dog warden room.
So what did
That's-
you do with the, I mean, I remember when we went through all these repairs to the
Yes.
building.
Right,
Because we needed space for records management and
right,
storage.
right.
So whatever was done to that section of the building could be done to this section
Oh,
of the building?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah. yeah. It's
Is
a
it
matter of
possible that,
building-
I'm sorry, Rob. Is
It's
it
a matter-
possible that, go ahead.
You go, Maria, go
You
ahead.
go, Maria.
I'm sorry, I can't see you, so it's hard to tell. But so is it possible to store it where near or next to? I mean, you have a lot of areas.
I have a
in the-
question. Is there any room in the records room that seems to be in a pretty good shape to at least hold that stuff until we figure something out? Maybe. Some of it,
Some of it. some
so
of
we
it.
could at least,
I have, comes up to another thing. I have probably 50 boxes of records that I have to destroy or
so
Shred?
shred.
I'll go out there with you, Rob. We'll at least take a look. I'll take photos and Maria, when
You know
you
what?
get back.
Yeah,
we'll
I'll
go
get back
over
on the
that.
16th. So maybe next Thursday we can go and
Yeah,
we
right.
can go together and look and definitely. I mean, I'm not, the shed idea was one of the ideas. We also looked at a garage near the
Town hall, yeah.
town hall, but it was in terrible shape, really not a good place at all. So we just want to safeguard our recreation equipment. And as we get more, if we start yoga classes or other things, we want to have a place to store equipment
Right,
that
right.
is clean and
So-
safe.
Yeah, sure,
How
absolutely.
much does it cost to rent until we figure it out at a storage place?
that would be about,
$187 a month. I looked at that too.
yeah, for the first 2 months, and then it's
Yeah,
gonna
then
be.
it-
Then it goes,
So
then it
Yeah.
I'm
doubles.
gonna
Yeah.
say that's gonna be 300 and change a month.
Yes.
And you
'Cause that
have
really
to
yucky
get a truck
garage
and
was-
Bring it there and get
Oh, I
it.
know
Yeah.
somebody with a truck.
And
But
then, we should-
the decrepit garage was $200 a month. So
All
that's a
right, so
lot.
we have a plan moving forward. We're going
Yeah.
to
Come up, we'll look at it.
come out and we'll
Throw stuff
quickly
out.
determine whether it's going to work or not.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so that's, now we're at new, business porta potty rental for farmer's market. Marissa, well, little backstory. People probably know that the train station, I will be reporting in my report. The renovation, restoration actually begins tomorrow. And so as a result, the train station depot will be basically closed off for the next 2 to 3 months, which leaves no no toilets available for our commuters. And so Marissa did, it says here for the farmer's market, but really my concern is also about the commuters that are using the train station. So there's been some, Marissa, thank you for doing your investigation. It looks like for 2 porta potties and a hand washing station, $481 would be a monthly charge, is that accurate?
Is that?
Oh,
is
I
that
thought it
two-
was,
Two toilets or one?
Oh,
No, that's-
It's
Until
481
2
for 3
months.
months, 2 months, I mean.
Dates were August, I think it was this Friday through
It's,
Oh,
yeah, through
It's
mid-October.
2 months.
2 months.
oh. Okay, so, I mean, that's probably about what the renovation will take.
Does the contractor have a porta potty in his contract that would be available to the public?
Probably for his workers, but this I'm considering for commuters, because we're shutting off the bathrooms.
Right, okay.
So $481 is through October 21st.
yes.
And that's with weekly cleaning, right?
they're
I
servicing
have to
it.
get, yeah, I'm not sure. So that, I did the quote just quickly online, so I didn't get particulars with anyone, with the rep on the phone, so I don't know how often they service it.
When we get the contract, I guess we'll get all those details.
Those units, I spend way too much time in the field, as Rob probably does as well. Those units are designed to be serviced once a week.
Once a week, right?
Once
Once a week.
yeah.
They're designed to be serviced once a week and designed to comfortably accommodate 10 workers a week. So, or I guess 50 workers a day. So weekly service is usually included. If it's not, then this is not worth doing. But just, so.
That's pretty standard, is what you're saying.
That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Now, these are, I will tell you right now, this is the lowest end porta potty,
Usage.
no,
Oh,
quality.
Quality.
Price
Quality
point.
control, it's in the D level.
Yeah,
It's not an
yes.
A plus.
This
Right,
is,
you're not-
this is
You're not
exactly,
getting the shower and the,
you're not, right, you're not
Bring
getting
in
the trailer with the
the
heat and the
trailer.
air conditioning
Yeah.
and the lights. You're not getting the, flush model that's more like what you see on an airplane or, charter fishing boat. This is one step more than what they have over at Museum Village, so you can look at how they did it in the old days.
the latrine.
Yeah. So, which is fine, I mean, you
It's
gotta
2
go, you
months.
gotta go, but,
I think that encourages people who don't have to go so well to maybe wait till you get home.
It's called the woods.
so,
But it also makes sure that
Sorry.
there is something there that,
yes, that's, yeah, no, that's fine, and
Really
as
urgent
long as
usage.
there, as long as we're talking about having this essentially be open 24/7, or whenever we have the doors to the train station open, this sounds like a reasonable accommodation to the fact that our regular facilities are not available.
and that, I don't think we're suggesting that this would be a continuing thing after the train station is renovated.
No, we won't need it after the train station's renovated. Right?
And would the police open it in the morning and lock it after the commuter hours? Is
I
that when
mean,
you
who
said
opens and
commuters?
closes the train station now?
Well, if we're looking to, say, commuter hours is morning and afternoon, right? And then during the Saturday,
I think that.
Are we really worried about phantoms pooping in the middle
I
of the
mean,
night?
I think that if the, I mean, so assuming they were working, when are the bathrooms at the train station open now?
All the
As
time.
far as I know, 24/7.
Yeah.
No, says a member.
I
It's
thought
been,
there was supposed
it's
to be
been,
locked.
it hasn't been standardized. Let's just
don't-
agree to reality.
Okay, but so who goes and locks the door?
I thought the police did. It was under my understanding, the police did.
I did,
Occasionally I did.
occasionally Kenda, but I locked the bathrooms after the vandalism, at a third time of vandalism. I'm not going there once a week, cleaning up the floors, fixing the toilets, and cleaning up the toilets. I'm not doing that. After the third time,
I think we need to keep
I
that
told
position to the board.
my guys, lock the doors, nobody's using the bathrooms.
Understood, but
And we're putting all this money into the bathrooms, And when the vandals hit it again, I'm not gonna be there every week cleaning floors and mopping up and pumping out the basement and everything else, so.
No, I would like to just refocus this to the porta potty as a very temporary accommodation that we're considering here. And it seems like the 481 was the online price, and it might vary a bit from there. I would suggest we probably consider a not-to-exceed number, just so we could take some action and possibly have a porta potty there this week.
You want to say
Are these,
600?
are these
Oh, two?
handicapped accessible?
I'm sorry, Howard, I couldn't hear you.
Are these handicapped
Are
accessible?
they handicapped
They
accessible?
can be,
At least one of them.
at least one of them can be. They make handicap accessible units.
So let's, when we regroup, Marissa, I'll be happy to do it with you. We'll look and get one handicapped, one regular, and check into the hand washing
You have to
station.
designate a spot for it because the contractor's looking for 4 parking spots also.
Okay,
So you'll have to designate maybe with him, without him, but you're gonna have to designate a spot for it also.
Yes.
Rob, would you mind going there with me and you and I figure it out?
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I'll go there, but you're gonna wanna put it close because it's for the commuters,
Right,
so we're gonna wanna put it close to the dock,
right.
right?
Yes.
So they, right, you don't wanna put it out on the other side of the parking
And
lot.
we can't interfere with the restoration work.
Right, correct, but maybe down the end of the dock or something.
Yes.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
And it has to be someplace that the guy with the honey wagon can get to it without too much trouble.
Right, right,
The Honey Dipper.
right, down the end by Antonelli Drive down there, that's fine.
Can we say the not to exceed $800?
I was gonna say thousands, so sure.
Yeah, let's say
How do we
1,000.
say 1,000? Okay, and
I mean,
Marissa and I will do our best to keep it as low as possible. All
I
right.
will say that, like, the next step up in these things has a hand washing station built inside the
right,
unit.
Right, that's what we're gonna
So
do.
maybe we should just go for that.
That's what I would
That's what,
suggest
you know,
going at.
That's-
Going a
Assuming
little
that's
bit
not
on a-
exorbitant, that's the price point I would be
Yeah.
looking at. Yeah,
If it's $1,100, it's $1,100.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve a not to exceed dollar value of $1,000 for securing porta potties for the train station, basically to run through October. Again, not to exceed $1,000. We will get at least one handicapped, and we'll try to get one with the washing station built in. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay.
No,
No, for
no,
the
for the-
full
for the-
contract,
Yeah.
through October. Okay,
and the only other thing I'd point out is that, I mean, John to go wherever you were talking to is one of the companies that's available, so you may. Doesn't matter to me what name's on the side, but there may be, and I'm guessing they all charge the same amount, but.
okay, monthly reports.
Are we gonna do the discussion, or are we
No,
gonna
we'll
do?
do these reports and then we'll do
Okay.
discussion, because the discussion is kind of open-ended. I have no
Okay.
idea how. So if we could try to keep our reports as brief as possible, that would be appreciated. In the packet, we have reports accepted from the building department. We have reports from the courts, justice courts, and we have our amazing town clerk here, and she submitted her report on page 10. Did you want to present that, Marissa?
Sure.
Not necessary, just whatever you want to present to your report.
Pretty straightforward. One thing you'll notice that's a little different in this submission is a street opening permit. which is a whopping $625. That's anytime. It's typically from a utility company, O&R, Suez. From time to time, they have to open a town road. So they have to apply for a permit. And Rob follows up, makes sure that they close it up properly and it's done to his liking. Other than that, pretty straightforward. Seeing a lot of parking permits. So at some point, I will get numbers for you, and we're probably close to capacity. Although some of these commuters are only going in 3 days a week, they have it, they end up purchasing the 12-month pass. So that still counts as one spot, regardless how many times a week that they use it. So just something we want to keep in mind.
Is that just for the lot, I guess that's called the upper lot?
Yes, referred to the upper lot right by the train platform. So that's resident only.
And how many spots are there, do you know?
I want to say
100?
64.
Oh, 64, okay.
Yes, and then I think 2 handicap and 1 motorcycle spot or 2, so.
And do
Thank
you
you.
only issue 64 permits?
Yes, we haven't gotten to capacity since I took them over. So I would say that we should stop at 64. Just, there could be a time that they go in 5 days a week or 6. So we, unless we start selling daily permits versus monthly or yearly. I think the options right now are 3, 6, and 12 months. So.
Thank you.
But definitely increase very regularly. I have a couple of announcements. Orange County is hosting a hazardous waste collection event. This one is on Saturday, September 30th from 9 to 1. The location is not too close, but it's at 401 Washington Street in Newburgh. But this is an event where you can bring paints, stains, fire extinguishers, fluorescent bulbs, all the things that are difficult to get rid of. And this one is.
Tires.
Tires, no. That is, no, it says what not to bring, tires, sorry.
So that might be helpful to say what not to bring.
Yes, yeah, not to bring is the other side of this. I have a flyer, it's on our website.
Okay.
Electronics, they're not collecting, tires, any appliances, batteries, fireworks, explosives, if you have any.
Why?
One thing they will accept that is kind of nice, that it's hard to find as well, is pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
And it's, you just pull up in your car, you don't have to get out, you just show proof of residency, and they take everything out for you. A question that I get a lot is how to dispose of paint, so this is a good one to go to. The other options are if it's water-based or latex, if it's dried out, it actually can go in your garbage. Ways to dry it out, you can put cat litter in there, or they sell these drops at Home Depot where you put into the paint and it dries it out quickly for you. What else do I have? There's a program that the DEC has come out with. It's Hunters for Eagle Conservation. They offer rebates up to $60
You start shooting them now?
to purchase non-lead ammo, and it's to help with, improve the health of eagles. So anyone interested in that, I do have a flyer. And finally, I received the letter, it's a formal response from the New York State Department of Transportation in request to the town board instituting a school speed zone on Route 17. As you know, they denied that request, but this is the formal denial in writing, and they gave a couple of reasons why, and then they offered the option of installing flashing beacons to help with that. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Robert, Highway Department?
Highway Department, okay, I'm gonna go through this quick, because I know you got a lot to talk about. I am in the process of getting this past year's salt into the salt barn, so you'll probably see a pretty big bill for that. 1,700 tons, which will, plus the 300 tons that I ordered last year, and probably the 100 tons that I have left over from the previous year. So I have plenty of salt for the next year. In the upcoming budget, my salt budget will stay the same. I'd like to use that towards a new tandem truck, which is the biggest truck that we own. The one that we have now is a 2006, and it's time to update that vehicle. Then we have 2 single-axle 2006s, but we will, because for whatever reason, the board bought 3 trucks at the same year. We will spread that out over the next few years to try to spread out the cost and the payments. That's that. Next thing, shed's gone. Lift. We need a new lift, car lift at the highway garage. That's something that we would do after the floor has been completed. We have a Ford lift. It's a 1986 Ford lift that they don't make parts for anymore. It's falling apart. One of the uprights is coming apart. It doesn't support the vehicles anymore. We don't use it. We need one to fix it. The other lift that we have is a 54,000-pound truck lift that 3 of the posts need to be rebuilt. So that's something down the road. Dirt pile, working away on the dirt pile, moving along nicely. Screening, we probably have about 10 to 15,000 yards right now screened. So, and we're moving along screening every day. Still patching, finishing the curbs and stuff in Laurel Ridge. Elsewhere around town is needed. Yes, he's not here, but we are getting to Patterson Hill. If Nick Balstree complains, we are getting there. Drainage, we finished a drainage job in Clinton Woods that has been on the burner since long before I've been here, and we completed that 2 weeks ago. Digging, we had to open up the edge of the road, extend the pipes because they were buried underneath the road and they never drained properly, which caused a problem on Clinton Road and Bowery Court. We extended that, used our boulders and tailings to make a nice wall and fill it with the tailings so that it drains out and it'll naturally drain out from the thing. And that's enough, Uncle.
Thank you.
Oh, anybody getting mulch and compost? There is no more compost. We're done for the year. There isn't. We used it all up. So we didn't use it up. Everybody took it. So the only thing left is mulch.
Thank you. Supervisor's update. Tuxedo Train Station renovation. The contractor, TAM Enterprises of Goshen, will begin the restoration project this week. Power washing of the exterior will begin tomorrow. This will require closing the building to the public. Color samples will be taken and I will review them with the contractor on Wednesday. Colors will be matched to the existing palette. Staining and painting is expected to begin on Thursday. Replacement of the damaged woodwork will also begin this week. Tuxedo LDC, the 3 grantee locations, Augusta Properties, Orange Top and adjacent office, Carlin Realty, Warehouse Building, and the Tuxedo Historical Society, the old Chase Bank Building, continue to make great progress. The town has submitted a grant proposal for the train station restoration project. We are seeking $140,000 in funding. And the audit for 2022, Cooper Arias has received the final information needed to complete the 2022 audit. I expect a draft for our review shortly. Additionally, they are preparing a summary of the 2023 year-to-date activity for the board to review. I'll turn, work from left to right, town board updates. Jay?
Who's left?
Sorry, my left. Work down this way.
Okay, only a couple of things, besides the Airbnb law, short-term rental law, and we're working on getting contract RFPs put together for sewer rehabilitation, and some other things. There was a question raised at the last meeting about the possibility of coning off the outer lanes of Route 17, especially during the weekend rush hours, because people are having trouble getting out of some of the side streets that aren't signalized. I spoke to the chief about it. He snuck out before I could ask him to answer the question. But the short answer is not really possible for a number of reasons. Some are procedural, some are simply functional. It might be possible to close a lane for a short period of time for an accident or an incident, but it's not viable to shut off entire lanes for any length of time or distance on that road. I'm just the messenger. That's what I got.
Thank you. Michelle?
Okay, yeah, just want to review, discuss reports that we'll be sending out to the town board, and if we could tonight, it would be great if we could schedule a time for that to be either on the agenda, but even more preferably in a workshop situation. The first one is Rob, Deirdre, and myself went up to Poughkeepsie to meet with the Department of Transportation to discuss the Route 17 corridor. We are preparing our report that includes their suggestions for improvements, and so I think that to really be able to do justice for this and to consider their suggestions and next steps that have been suggested by the DOT, to see if we can schedule a workshop. Can we do that tonight?
Sure.
Okay. All right. The other meeting that Rob and I, Deirdre, were you at that meeting with the MTA? So we met with the MTA. That has a plan in the works for a signal at East Village Road and at the junction with Route 17. And so we have action items that have been discussed and that need to be discussed as a town board. So both of these meetings with the DOT and the MTA basically informed us of our options for beautification and pedestrian safety in the Hamlet Business District. So this would also be a discussion that would come out of our discussion about the MTA plan and the DOT suggestions for Route 17. So then the last, before we, I don't know when you want to set dates, but unrelated to that, our comprehensive plan includes the establishment of a conservation advisory committee. And I'd like to draft the role that this committee would play in our zoning and planning, especially given that recent projects came before the planning board that I believe would have benefited from a review by a conservation advisory committee. They included wetlands and also stormwater infrastructure. So I think that the committee that has been established in the comprehensive plan would be beneficial for those boards to help establish guidelines. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like to work with Howard to look at what is in the comprehensive plan and present the board with options for the Conservation Advisory Committee. And also to set dates for the workshops.
I'd need more background information than that, personally. But I don't have any objection to, I think when you're thinking about scheduling any kind of workshops though, just realize we still have budget that has serious deadlines. The short-term rentals thing needs to be resolved, and there's parks and recreation. So all I'm saying is stuff's got to get in line, you know.
Well,
We can't just add things until we finish the ones that we already have pending. That's just me though.
Well, I'm thinking maybe we need another workshop date, like we did with the special permit. Because we can't get through all this stuff that we have on our plate at these
Absolutely.
meetings.
Well, I'm certainly, if we need a meeting, whether we can do that as part of a board meeting or we need to have a special meeting to address any of this stuff, is fine. But before we can determine how much time we need, I know I at least need to have that initial report so that I can read it and know what's going on.
course.
And so, until we've got those reports from the meetings,
Well, you have the MTA
I do
report.
not.
Yeah, I sent that out.
I've got a copy of their plan, I don't have a report.
I wrote a report.
Okay, maybe I lost it.
Yeah, you know what,
Fine.
I'll be
Send it
honest
to
with
me
you,
again.
Outlook is really difficult, because if somebody responds, it's hard to know, but I sent out an MTA report.
So then I'll ask you to do me the
Yeah,
favor
no
of sending it to
problem.
me again.
No, no problem.
All I'm saying is,
And then,
it's not a simple scheduling.
it's
You know,
right,
We have,
we need to know.
the
more.
budget absolutely has deadlines, and we definitely need to move forward this short-term rentals thing.
That I will have for
So-
you, that I will have for you
And this
next week,
Parks and
and I
Recreation
apologize for
thing's
that
been
delay.
sitting forever, so it's just a matter of everybody deciding what's the priority, what are we doing? Obviously, you can't do everything at once, but.
Well, if we have reports to the town board, say within 2 weeks.
So we
Okay,
can get it done, I mean, the MTA report's done.
Yeah.
The DOT report we can get that by the end of the week.
so,
So basically to tell you what I think the plans, the reports will tell you
yes,
is, A, what we can and cannot do,
yes,
what we can as a town,
right,
what the MTA intends to do,
yes,
and our influence on that.
Yes.
So what we can and cannot do. And then from there, we should, as a group, come up with a plan to move forward as to what we want to do. Because now we'll have parameters, which I don't think we really had that before, of telling us what we can and cannot do. And Rob was kind enough to come with us so that he can also have input in terms of what we can implement that would be good for the town.
yes.
So-
I got that, and I think that's a great idea. I'm not trying to avoid having these meetings. I just want to make sure that if we're going to commit time,
Right.
if you're asking that we commit time
Right,
outside
and
the
I'm
time that
saying,
we already
is that
commit.
enough for us to move forward with a report, with a meeting, I
Well,
guess, is my question.
So what I'd like to see is the report that tells us all the information you gave us, and we're counting on you, based on this information, to come up with a set of, an agenda, some items to talk about.
Oh,
What are
definitely.
the
Yeah,
decisions we need to
absolutely.
make?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have all the suggestions, and
Yes.
as Deirdre said, the things that.
And
they
I'll
said
outline
we
it
can
in
and
a
cannot do.
format that we can have a
That's
discussion.
exactly.
Yes, so
Give me-
saying,
give me-
starting here, which is what we can do, here's some suggestions, here's what they said, here's what they, and we can digest it and actually take it apart and then decide if we want to put it together or just leave it alone.
Exactly, and then we have an agenda.
That's the intent.
Then we have an agenda for a meeting with goals and objectives and metrics and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
that's what, I just didn't want to take up a lot of time. I was just saying, we're working on the report, we'd like to schedule a workshop.
So let's
That's,
have
I
the
didn't mean to go in,
Let's have the reports first, so then we can figure out how much time it's gonna take to talk about this stuff.
Okay, I'll get you the DOT report by the end of the week, and the MTA report, I will resend it out.
Thank you.
And then if you need anything else, just let me know.
Well, yeah, then I'll know
Yeah.
then I'll know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
questions
yeah,
to
yeah,
ask.
exactly.
Well, this was Michelle's
Yeah,
report. so
Sorry.
I'm trying to turn it back over to her.
Sorry.
no, that was it. I just was going to introduce the fact that we have the report, we need to schedule
but-
meetings, and also then use the feedback from both the MTA and the DOT to inform a plan for the Hamlet Business District, beautification and pedestrian safety. And then that's that. And then the other thing is, if you're okay, as I think you said, for me to work with Howard on a draft of a conservation advisory committee and its role with planning board.
Bill, am I granting permission?
I thought you said you wanted some information and you wouldn't object to it. I thought that's what you said.
Well,
Before we spend a lot of consultant time, can we
Yeah.
have a
Well,
broad
it's-
brush outline of what's going on with that?
It's in the comprehensive plan, so
Okay.
I'll send
read the
you
entire
the
co-
copy of the comprehensive
Just,
plan where
just send me the
it's set-
section that's important.
I will.
And tell me what you think that we want to do with this, so that I've got a short bulleted list that's actionable.
Yeah, it's in the plan, So I will send you the page numbers or, yeah, yes.
Sure, good, that'll do.
And, how many hours of legal time you think this would take? And
Okay, maybe Howard can help me with that. I know.
so this
he's
has
probably
to do with
worked
the Conservation Advisory Committee?
Yes, that towns have for the purpose of advising the town board, the planning board with, when they're approving projects to help with their analysis of environmental impacts. I think that's how to put it in
So,
one
but
sentence.
I'd like to see more than just the pages from the comprehensive plan that
Okay.
mentions this.
Yeah.
Is what we're talking about. Who's gonna be on this board? Who's, what it will be, what its purview will be. That sort of basic framework,
Yeah.
so that we now have a thing to discuss as opposed to just a concept.
And how does it differ from some of the roles of the planning board?
The planning board, our existing
Yep.
planners, our engineer, the environmental consultants that have to be hired by, as necessary, by the boards.
And what's the expertise of volunteers on a Conservation Advisory Committee that
Okay.
would add,
Value.
Value, definitely.
well, when
Absolutely.
you're talking about something specific about Conservation Advisory, seems like you need a lot of
You need experts.
expertise.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
okay. Deirdre?
my turn?
Yes.
Okay. So, Marissa and I have been working on how to upgrade and improve our communication system through email. So, we have a meeting coming up with Constant Contact, and the objective there is to take all of our various, lists. I think we have about 3, and merge them, and then send out an introductory email to all the people on that list, and be able to segment and identify things that are of interest to the various people in our community. This will allow us to talk to them specifically about their regions. So for example, if it's somebody who's in the sewer district and they want to we have information on the sewers, we'll be able to talk to them about it, and people in the Woodlands don't have to necessarily get all that information. That kind of segmentation we can do. One of the things I discovered is that our current system of telling people things, which we get probably about a 60% hit rate, because most of it does go to spam, because Outlook doesn't really have a system that allows you to do mass emails. So this will give us the ability to talk to our residents about information, which is announcements and various things that they need to know about. The cost of that would be $75 a month, and that goes up to 2,500 people using it. And there's many other things we can access once we get our feet wet and you basically understand it, but we can use it for other services as well. But right now, we just want to get it started, and they will keep it clean. They will make sure that it's, we're not going to spam. Anybody who's moved, they'll take it off the list. So it's just an improvement to what we're currently doing. Takes it out of the hands of people here, but basically it will be controlled by people here, but they won't have to be going in and entering people's names and taking people's names out. So that would be the role of Constant Contact. It's a total cost of $900 a year. Okay? Everybody agree that this is a good idea?
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
a couple
I
of
agree.
questions.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
So you mentioned basically some kind of regional segmentation, also by interest, like you said about the sewer district, and maybe would one of the lists be about town events kind of
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
and,
What do you want to hear about?
yeah,
General events. I want to know about town board meetings. Very simple, pretty basic.
updates from the highway department or
Yes,
something like
yes,
that? or-
yeah, snow alerts, whatever. We have to come up with those ideas. And of course, we'll circulate them for everybody to decide if it's good, good, if they want to add it and add something or take something off. But that's Marissa and I will be talking to them about doing a framework, which then I could put a plan together and basically send it out to everyone for final approval before we implement it. But they do want to know that we are going to use them before they spend any time setting up this whole system.
So it sounds like who's ever the point person of the special interest is the person who would be managing that silo of email contacts. So for example, the recreation department would have their own
Their ability to go in and
Set
set a message
an
to
interest
their,
group.
and then they can say, yes, this is general information, or this is information for people only that want to know about recreation, or this is information about seniors. You know, we can have a list like that, so people who want to know about activities for seniors.
So maybe the Silver Dollars has.
Correct, yeah, but we want to always control, we don't want to let a lot of people in there to be able to add messages. We need a control system here, which, to be honest, I don't know how that would work, because we need to meet with them in order to find out how they typically work that. But you don't want to have 15 people all using this system at the same time.
So it sounds like you do need some kind of a manager.
You do.
So that's always a challenge, identifying who those managers are. But
Yeah, well-
I think it sounds like
The only other
a
thing is,
useful tool.
I think it's
Somebody owns it.
it's a useful tool. I think that, yes, we're still gonna have the question of who is the gatekeeper and who are the content generators, but we have that now.
Right.
And the only thing that I'm gonna say is before, the amount of money is nominal, but let's, do me a favor and check with Carrie, who's currently the keeper of procurement rules. She's the expert.
Yeah,
That we
yeah.
make sure that we're,
I just didn't want to run down that road unless it was something we wanted to do.
yeah, no, understood.
Yeah.
Just let's make sure that
Yeah, I'll
we're-
talk to
we
her,
don't-
especially as setting it up in terms of how it would be billed, all those kind of things. So
Yeah.
I definitely will go through her.
But no, I think it sounds like a great idea.
And we can also do our questionnaires, find out what our residents want to do.
We can do our questionnaires, we can have, we talk to the chief, we have a whole number of things that we can use
And
it for.
it's a good way, we need to communicate with our residents. So that's, last one, just a little housekeeping. When I did come in the other day, I noticed, because I go downstairs sometimes to visit with Marissa on some of the projects we're working on, I noticed that there's no real security for the court. Do we have plans for security for that?
What do you mean?
Well,
What are we
it's a
talking about?
it's a public courtroom, people were coming in and coming out, it's women down there. is
When
there-
court was in session?
Or even just security, you can't get into the high school, you have to go through a security person. Is there a panic, I know there's a panic button, is it working? Do we have plans to,
So,
I'm just asking, because,
so the short answer is,
safety is an issue.
when court is in.
I'm not prepared to answer those questions.
But
I'm
I
asking,
can tell you
well, I
now
just-
is when court is in session,
Yeah,
there is a
Court
court
guard,
security
court officer.
officer
okay, yeah.
here. And that's when the metal detector that's at the front door is used.
So that's when it's used,
That's what that is for.
okay.
That's for when
I'm
court is
just
in
asking.
session. We have
Curious.
there are other security measures in place in town hall, and I don't think this is the right venue to
No,
talk
no,
about
no, I
it.
just noticed that walking downstairs, it didn't look like it was on, that's,
Well, the metal detector is specifically for court use.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh. They're talking to me.
I think it was somebody's watch or something.
Sorry, that was my computer that said that.
Oh, Maria? You have
Hello.
the floor.
Okay, so what I first want to do is I want to just take a minute to thank everybody and just give you some thoughts about the camp. I wrote it down only because I didn't want to forget anyone, and just there were so many parts to it. So it's very short, but I'm going to read it. So our successful town summer camp ended last Friday. Many parents thanked us for having a safe, fun, and well-run camp for 85 children in Tuxedo. I thank Kathleen Metcalf, our recreation director, for organizing and managing all aspects of the camp while still carrying out a myriad other recreation and park management tasks. I thank Craig Jacoby, our assistant camp leader, for his expertise, guidance, and kind leadership. He was a mentor not only to our campers, but made our counselors more effective and kind leaders as well. I thank our wonderful counselors, lifeguards, and CITs. It's a hard job running after, motivating, entertaining, and teaching campers every day. I thank Marissa Dolbaum for helping us with many aspects of the camp, especially helping us with all Orange County permitting, personal licensing issues, etc. I thank Father Robin, Sue Hayward, and all the generous donors to the St. Mary's Summer Camp Scholarship Program. I also thank Ken and the Tuxedo Town Board, Mayor McFadden, and the WEWA Board, Jeff White, Superintendent Jeff White, and the Tuxedo School Board for supporting this effort. Running our camp well and giving Tuxedo children a wonderful summer experience was truly a town-wide effort. Finally, I thank Tuxedo parents for trusting us to take care of their children and for giving us open and honest feedback before, during, and after camp. Their comments and ideas help us to create a better, safer camp experience for our children. Supervising the camp and recreation department has been in times exhausting and educational, but also a very rewarding experience. And I look forward to continuing it in the future. We are elected to serve, and it is for our families and our constituents that we do what we do. So that's it for camp. However, I do have something else. The Tuxedo Fall Festival is in the planning. We have made some changes. We changed the name Family Fun Day to Tuxedo Fall Festival for several reasons. One of them was because we wanted it to be inclusive of everyone in town, not just families with children. We also changed the date, and that was done because the Ren Fair traffic situation happens on that first weekend of October. The second weekend after that is the Mascus Orchard and the Apple Fest, and it's also Columbus Day weekend where a lot of families take, it's the last little vacation that they can take before full on school starts. So for that reason, we scheduled it on the 21st. So we have a small group of volunteers that are kind of a steering committee for us. They're all people that have been involved in the planning. We had the Chamber of Commerce, Marissa, obviously Kathleen, myself, both the librarian, Diane Loomis, and the children's librarian, the TPO, and a number of volunteers after that. So we already have a very well detailed plan. We have a budget based on last year's budget. We wanted to stay with that. And so October 21st, we'll have a first ever Tuxedo Fall Festival. And that's my report.
Well, thank you, Maria. I'd just like to echo again, all the hard work that went into the camp obviously was very successful. Thank you for taking that on and leading it. And I actually saw a bit of the closing thing at Tiki Field. Looked like the kids really had a great time. And no easy feat to organize that. So I'm sure the kids had a great time. Congratulations. So it's
Thank
the
you.
21st of October is Tuxedo Day?
Yeah,
Fall Festival.
Fall Festival.
yeah, Fall Festival, Tuxedo Fall Festival.
Thank you. Okay, we have the minutes that need approval. I'll make a motion. I'm gonna abstain though because I wasn't at that meeting, to accept the minutes of the regular bi-monthly town board meeting held on July 24th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Deirdre. Any of you guys have
Good.
comments, additions, edits?
I'm good.
So I'm abstaining. All in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that one's done. The vouchers. As always, Carrie gave us a list of vouchers over $5,000. Big ones are the typical Rockland paramedics, monthly $63,000, and IWS $31,000 a month. So you have those in front of you. So I'll make a motion that the following vouchers, having been audited by the town board, are hereby approved for payment. Claims numbers 201-292-1940 through 201-292-2009. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Jay. Open to town board discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, don't forget, we have our, discussion on Parks and Recreation. Public comments. Dale, thank you for coming out, Dale. As you know, you need to use the microphone. For those at home, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
So this is basically for information purposes related to the porta potty discussion. I was at the library this past Saturday and they were having problems with their toilets. And they said it happens every Saturday with the farmer's market because there's no toilets at the train station and they go over and they use the library and there's too many people using it and it affects their plumbing. So that it isn't affected by the commuters because the library isn't typically open at commuter time. So it really is farmer's market. And I don't know if people will use the porta potty or go use a flush toilet anyway because of preference. But it just brings up what happens even the rest of the time. I don't know who's responsible for causing such problems at the train station, but unfortunately, the library being a public place is being impacted by it. So I just wanted you guys to know that that was the case because it never would have occurred to me, but I was there when it happened.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I think you just kind of underscored, at least this temporary measure we're taking is kind of urgently needed, and let's at least see, hopefully it helps. But having worked in public libraries, yeah, public toilets are always a challenge, and people to see the libraries as,
Especially when it's right across the street.
yeah. Thank you for that. Public comments, anybody online? If you could unmute yourself or raise your hand, that would be helpful, but. Okay. I don't think we have other business. We are going to engage in the discussion of beginning Parks and Recreation local law. Just to give the public, this is our first real pass through. How are we describing this, Jay? Just an opening conversation on a big topic?
I think that's safe, although I would like people to stop looking at me for questions on this. This is Maria's project. But yes, similar to what happened, 6 weeks ago or so when we started talking about short-term rentals. We need to have a time to discuss these upgrades to the Parks and Recreation Code, for want of a better description.
Do we want to do it the same way by going and putting it on the screen and going through it?
I don't have a plan for this, so,
I don't think I have a copy.
I have a hard copy on my lap.
I mean, well, Maria, I mean,
Yeah, how do you
You know
want?
what? I mean, I have a copy, but I would not want to put this. I honestly, I know, you know, we've done work on this. I would prefer to have this discussion when we're all, when I'm there with you, because I think that this, there seems to be so many different ideas about, and I would love it if we all had a copy and we all sitting down and we're looking at it. I am in a hotel and this is a not secure, so I don't feel confident sharing my screen with people, lest something, you know, unpleasant happens. So I don't know about how, I mean, I know we need to get this done, but I don't know if I've been the one that has been, you know, doing this work and I'm not there. So perhaps we could defer this conversation and really start doing the work together. I received comments from you guys like yesterday and the day before yesterday, and you know, this is my first week of vacation since December because I had no vacation at all. So I just haven't had a chance to, you know, digest your comments. I have everything that you gave me from early on, but I think that I don't know. I don't know how
We
you
can
feel about
table
it.
this. I think you're requesting that we table this.
Yes.
I have on my little box for the 28th, we've tabled the short-term rental final review and Parks and Recreation. We know both of those topics will be lengthy discussions on top of our regular business. So I'm just putting that reality check on. To,
Can I ask can I ask Howard a question? So one of the things that really helped uh, when we did the short-term rental was that he gave us this more up-to-date, more modern sample of a law like this. Is it possible, Howard, for you to share with us uh, some, let me see, just one second, like some more, like our law seems like it's kind of old and, you know, we haven't made changes since like 1996, but I'm sure that there are other towns that you work with that have more updated laws.
Yeah, I think, but there's a couple fundamental questions that you need to start out with, and that is, what's the purpose of the law? If the purpose is to create a new town department, that's one function that you may or may not want to do. If the purpose is to just provide rules or regulation governing the public parks and recreational facilities that the town has, that's a separate type of emphasis. So I think the board needs to be clear as to what it is you want to ultimately accomplish here. Having rules and regulations doesn't necessarily mean you need to have a department. Okay, it's just a set of rules and regulations that govern under various circumstances. And it informs the work of the recreation coordinator, which is a position you previously established. I know over the many months that this has been, talked about intermittently, one of the driving forces at one point seemed to be a way to try to obtain volunteers to assist the recreational coordinator during those times and in those programs where she needs some assistance without having to expand the department and create a paid staff. So I think the board needs to come to some, needs to decide on a direction that you want this to go forward on. I could provide you things that'll cover any of those categories, but it doesn't pay to create something if you don't really want it.
Well, you know what? So one of the things that I thought, first of all, it needs to be, you know, it is a department now, and we do have a director, which is, you know, not a full-time position, but, you know, in my conversations with, when I was in town last Monday with Tuxedo Farms, it seemed, he told me things are going to happen so fast now. It's the site approval and whatever. So I feel like if we think small, in a year, we're going to be back at the same place that we are now, thinking about, okay, well, now we have all these other people. We can have a department that, you know, encompasses. I mean, nobody's going to want to move into a town that has no recreation, because my understanding of this, since I've been supervising this, is that it's the one thing that brings the town together, right? It's, you know, the camp and the celebrations, and but just the sports. It's interesting that Kathleen was telling me the other day, you know, one of the days when the, you know, counselors were really hot, and she was saying, you know, you can tell sometimes when, you know, young people haven't had a lot of athletic experience because they don't have the stamina, for example, to be outside very long, and you know, things like that. So I think that I'm not saying I have a clear vision in my mind either, but I also don't want to say, I mean, somebody said to me the other day, you know, Tuxedo used to be like a mom and pop store, and you guys have turned it into a town, a real town. And I think that we need to keep that vision going in all our departments. I mean, we've done it in all the other ones. So I'm not saying, you know, get us a whole department and get, you know, tons of staff and things like that. But also I'm afraid to think too small. And I'm afraid to say, oh, we're just doing it. I mean, you know, through all of this time, reservations were being made all the time. Decisions have to be made. Are we allowed to allow so and so to use the park? What kind of things are they going to need for whatever events they want? How many people? Like, how do you communicate with highway department? All of these things are big. I mean, all of these things are things that are happening every week. It's not just something, unless you're doing it and watching it happen, you don't realize that it's not just, oh, the summer camp and the tuxedo day and, you know, the race. It's every single day there are things going that the decisions have to be made by the recreation director, which is the position that we do have now, not a coordinator. And that's,
Sorry.
so
didn't mean to interrupt.
anyway, yeah, that's it. You can, I mean, I'm just thinking aloud, actually.
I think we have the framework. I think that it's a reasonable thing that we may not be ready to discuss it tonight, where we're not all in one room. What I think would be helpful, let me step back. I think that the discussion about short-term rental at the next meeting, if everything goes properly, should be pretty short, because there aren't a whole lot of other changes, and I think they're going to be pretty easy to approve, and I'll get them out ahead of time. I think that, again, if in preparation for the next meeting's discussion, we're going to move this discussion that we're not having now, as soon as I shut up, out 2 weeks. If you can recompile based on all the other comments that you got over the last couple of days, and let's start I'm a big fan of writing a first draft so everybody can tell us why it's wrong, right? So we have at least a framework to discuss, and we can very quickly go through the things that everybody agrees on. We don't have to talk about those. And then places where there needs to be better definition of what we're trying to do will come out of that discussion, and we can see how to do that.
But sorry.
No, I thought we talked about like outside commercial businesses not being able to use the parks and things like that, that Howard was saying could be one
Yeah, there's so many
segment of
segments
this.
here. I sort
And
of.
maybe that would be easy to finalize.
I'm finding, I'm a little confused because I thought our original conversation, Maria, was about establishing a recreation advisory committee, which was the volunteers, that kind of thing. Now, when
Well-
I'm reading this, it looks like that's changed direction, and the objective now is to set up a whole new department or expand an existing department. And that's fine.
That was not the reason. The reason was that we decided to look at the whole law, the whole chapter
Okay.
in our town code. We decided to do that a long time ago. It isn't just something that, and we've discussed this for several times.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many segments to this, because there's the parks, and then there's the fees, and then there's the employees, and then there's the advisory committee. There's so many different segments here.
And don't forget the
But
highway
it's-
department that actually manages the parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
so that's all, I'm just saying.
But somebody
breaking
has to
apart.
orchestrate all of these things. And that's where the department comes in, right? There are all these different things. And
Right.
either we don't have it and then we're like the mom and pop town like we used to be, or we do have them.
So,
And so-
I mean, Howard raised an issue, you're talking about this volunteers, and it was just talked about this advisory committee. I mean, sure, Maria, this town is poised to grow. New residents in Tuxedo Farms at best would be 2 years out. But of course, you have to start ramping up for those kind of things. I mean, we have taken baby steps. We've expanded this recreation director's position, and which is the biggest task has been the summer camp. And of course, that's supported by seasonal employees. But so when you're talking about a department, I don't think we're there yet, that first of all, from a budgetary standpoint, to add staff. So, clearly the next assistance would come from some kind of volunteers, call it advisory committee, whatever. But volunteers are having run a volunteer program for the New York Public Library. I mean, that still needs real definition as to what any committee is empowered to do and who's supervising, because those are still unpaid positions. People still have to understand that it's a real job. So, trying to balance between scale and budget as you try to ramp up. I mean, we obviously had to upgrade the recreation director's position to get a successful camp. Obviously, the next big event is this Tuxedo Fall Festival. Might have to consider, are any of those seasonal employees that helped out with the summer camp, might we use them as seasonal employees to get that event together in a limited fashion? Things like that. I would think, some very modest incremental improvements. Working with Howard, certainly fee schedules and stuff like that needs to be straightened out.
But
I would think that's town board. But Maria, it sounds like
You
you're.
don't think it's town board?
No, I think it is town board,
yeah.
the fees.
Yeah.
Yes, of
And,
course
and I
it is.
think but we've already had so many discussions. I actually thought we had adopted so much stuff, because we talked about it, like a year and a half ago?
We haven't adopted, we've
And-
made very few changes.
Yeah.
It just needs to be segmented out and discussed.
It is,
Sections.
right, and it needs to be
adopted. Yeah.
discussed in sections.
Yeah.
But I also think that, and this is what Maria was saying about planning for growth. We have a very the current code and the changes that we're looking at, right? This stuff that Maria's been collating is almost 90% what's already on the books. The issue is that there are places there it's really vague. There are places where it's internally inconsistent, right? It calls for a particular
Oh, yeah.
person to run things that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and
The
it's
purchasing
complete,
agent.
and it's outdated, right?
Yeah.
So.
And it's not relevant to Tuxedo.
Some of it isn't, some of it is, some of it isn't. What our challenge is to set the foundation and the framework for how this department is going to grow as the population and the needs grow.
And the budget will grow.
And the
I mean-
budget will grow
I mean,
and the
each
cost
one
will-
of those units, we should also be considering, I think right now it's established at $1,500 a unit.
Yeah, we should
You
change
know.
that.
We can look where we can change that and where we,
I'd say get on that quick.
yes, all of that is important. We have to remember, I like to say that what the town's job is to provide people who show up to fix things in a vehicle with flashing lights on it. It might be yellow lights on Rob's trucks, or it's red and lights, or it's blue lights. The other thing, though, that the town has to provide is other services to the residents, and
Right.
recreation and parks is a big part of that. That's the quality of life part.
Yeah.
It's the first thing to go when there's money problems, because probably no one's gonna die if we don't fix everything in the park this week, as opposed to keeping the police station running. And we're at the end of a long period of this town's history where we've had to be very, very tight. And we need to look at this, because we're now hopefully coming into a part of the town's history where there's more people, there's more taxes, there's more money, and we can start to fund parks and recreation and those other soft pieces.
But, absolutely, but you can't pull the trigger too fast because the money's not in the bank yet.
Understood, but what we,
Right.
The town has had experienced bad things planning
Thinking
for
it's happening
Tuxedo
next
Farms.
year,
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
understood.
expanding the police force and all kinds of things that didn't work out in quite the way they planned.
And I'm not saying that we should run out and hire a bunch of people or even commit a bunch of funds, but we need to modernize the framework so that it's there that we can do it.
People always want more services, but when it comes to their tax bill, they really don't want to see that change. We really haven't invested a lot of money in our parks. The biggest thing that we did was a tennis court and a rehab of a basketball court, but, that needs to be part of it.
Absolutely.
Programming, absolutely, modest increments. Certainly, we haven't tapped into volunteerism that might be somewhat guided by seasonal employees for certain events. I mean, there's only really two big ones we have at the summer camp. And there also needs to be a debriefing review of how the summer camp, because
Yes, we're gonna have
we
that on
absolutely
Thursday.
need to look at that, because to see what the true expenses were, and
Can we
because
start?
I need to be working on a budget, and I can tell you, it won't be my objective to blow that budget up with a lot of big ideas, so.
Can
Yeah.
we
No, I-
start with maybe what the responsibilities would be of the town board versus an advisory committee, the recreation director? Because it seems to me we need a comprehensive plan for parks, and that, I think, should reside with the town board. We did the court, and I know Rob has over time fixed the whatever the ground cover is at town parks for the kids and the playgrounds and,
We do, highway does the maintenance of all the town parks.
yeah. So if we
Right.
could get a comprehensive plan for what needs to be fixed, what we have now, and have that be a town board responsibility, maybe we could start another way of segmenting it, and then the fees and who can use our parks for outside events can also be town board. And then maybe that would help. I don't know if it helps, but at least it would
All
I
of
think it
that
does.
stuff,
I
help
think-
us get
all of that
started.
stuff is in this document that we have in front of us.
Right.
or theoretically
Exactly.
have in front of us.
I agree, but it seems to me that the advisory board, and it's called a board, which gives it a whole nother level of responsibility, is,
Michelle,
is
have you read
recommending
it?
to
Because
the
I
town-
took
yeah.
away, I took out, you objected to that line,
Right, I
that they
see,
had some say on the parks. I took that out. That was, what I did, my first action with this document was to go to the things that were like definitely no for all of you, and that was one of them. And
Right.
that's fine,
Maria? Maria,
yes.
would, in your mind, could the purpose of the advisory board be accomplished by a recreation, a volunteer coordinator?
Well, I mean, in the law, it's supposed to be, yes. I mean, there's like we could have a coordinator. It doesn't have to be like
You
a
have-
chairman or whatever.
Right, but if you have,
Yeah.
if you have a volunteer coordinator, somebody whose responsibility is to nurture and obtain quality volunteers and keep them involved, keep them interested, keep them engaged. If you have that function satisfied, in your mind, do you think you still need an advisory board?
I'm going to answer that one. Absolutely. The intention of the advisory board is to do exactly that, to be the voice of the consumers of this product, of people who use the park, the residents, not for nothing, the people who are paying for it, to help, let me invent a word, advise the Parks and Recreation Director on programming, on what facilities and functions the people want in the park, to help advise the town board on what equipment people want. We had this when we were doing the Tichy Field tennis court. We heard from the advisory board, that it was the general public, can you put pickleball lines on it? I don't know from pickleball, I wouldn't have done that. That's the job of the advisory board. The advisory board has it's not in the law. They have no power to make decisions, to
Right.
commit funds. All of that is reserved for town board or perhaps the department employee leadership delegated by the town board. There is no, I don't even know what the right word is, starts with an A. There's no giving away of our power, not mine personally, the board's power to make decisions at all. It's an advisory board. That's what they do. They give advice.
Well,
So Maria, you submitted to the town board the Fall Festival notes, from your meeting from August 9th. I'm a big believer in volunteers, but before I would anoint anybody, anything, I'd want to see them show up for a couple of meetings and actually contribute to running one event before I give you a badge and a gun and tell you you're now super volunteer leader of the pack. So you have an event coming up that probably is going to need to be successful for all the reasons that we're talking about, some kind of volunteers. I don't think you need to anoint them with oil right now. I'd just try to get some volunteers to work with Kathleen under your, similar to how you ran the camp. And I think the town board should consider at least funding some seasonal employees possibly to help with that task. And if that's augmented by some volunteers, well, that's a beautiful thing. But because you can come up with all kinds of advisory boards on paper, and then who actually shows up and does things? I mean, volunteers, you know, that has to be a proven thing. And those are real people, not names on a chart, that actually show up and do things. And you look at examples of Tuxedo Historical Society, you look at Chamber of Commerce, all kinds of suits. I'm speaking for the chamber, but I'm just looking for examples. To get people who actually show up and do things, the libraries, all these kind of things. So, I mean, it's as hard as it is, that's the easier task, getting this stuff on paper. It's actually trying to execute it. So you have a task that's coming up that I think is a reality check to get that done. And I think that will help put a light on what really needs to go into these kind of documents that'll actually go somewhere.
But this
You know
is
what?
not- Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I am so sorry. No, I agree with you. So we started this committee of volunteers, which included Noreen and Dale from the Chamber of Commerce,
Who's here right now?
Diane Loomis. Hi, Dale. Diane Loomis and the children's librarian. Her name escapes me for the moment. Donna Weinard, who has been a very active.
I see Kara's name
volunteer.
here. Kara, Jimmy.
Kara.
But
Right, Jamian, yeah, Kara Jamian. And then we had the TPO, the head of the TPO, the chairman is Aoife Gagan. She wasn't at the meeting, but I spoke to her afterwards. She, for example, she was one of the people who said, I can rustle up volunteers for you because, she's in charge of, because of, she's aware of the high schoolers some of them are counselors that we had for the summer. And then also the library said they also have volunteers, and then they would, provide some of those folks for us. So the volunteer thing that started, we are definitely doing that. And then, it was so good having this group because they were like, for example, the whole traffic thing, they were like, anybody who lives in Northern Tuxedo is not going to be able to go because on the last weekend of the Ren Fair, there's just not going to be anybody that could get out of their houses and get back in. So I think that I agree with you, Ken, 100%. I think that, I'm fine waiting to change the law until, as long as we have some sort of process.
I'm not saying it's an either or. I'm not saying it's an either or.
Right.
This is not just the advisory board law.
Yeah,
And this is not
exactly.
just arranging for volunteers. Every aspect of our current regulations that deal with parks and recreation needs to be updated.
Yeah.
The document that Maria has been collecting and all of the ideas that we have given her piecemeal by email and conversation, she has collected up into this draft. Or almost all, because apparently, we've given her some other stuff. So start, fine.
Yeah.
Yes, there are a lot of moving parts that have to be meshed together. And yes, the discussion will need to be in chunks, which will make it actually better because
Yeah,
it'll make
segment.
it into manageable, chewable bites
With different subjects.
with different subjects. Just like we finished up with the short-term rental law, there's a lot of moving parts in there that are disparate until they all get resolved and then put into one package so they all work together. So let's get to Maria. Anybody has any last-minute ideas, get them to her in the next couple of days so she can put the draft together so we can start discussing it in 2 weeks and move this forward. And at the same time, we still need to maintain the parks, We still need to run not Family Fun Day, Family Not, Fall
Festival.
Festival,
Tuxedo
whatever
Fall
it
Festival.
is. We need to debrief on the camp and start planning for next year and putting enough money into it. So as usual, we have to build this set of stairs while we're climbing it.
Yep.
So, Maria, I think in one of your emails, you were talking about the real, more maybe immediate need for Kathleen to be able to give out permits for park use, right? So.
Right.
So,
That's
and I know that we've talked about it so much and set fees, so maybe we can, since you
We
think that that's
finalize
an immediate need, maybe we can try and get that going again. and-
Well, and we've had
It's-
that worked out, we had an example of that. It's in this paper that I
Yeah, yeah,
gave
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
The
right.
fees and all that
Yeah,
stuff are
It's
there.
there.
We
but-
just need to finalize it.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
doesn't,
But for instance, the reason why I brought that up is that the situation Kathleen was faced with last week, right? She didn't know what the rules were. And so I think that, that kind of thing, I thought we had already discussed. And so let's just finalize that piece for her, just to make her life simple so she knows what's allowed and what's not.
right, but the problem is that it takes almost the same amount of work to finalize that piece as to finalize the whole thing.
Not if you segment it though.
Yeah, why can't we?
You know, the
Because
thing
what I
about, we're
see here is
talking,
a lot of different moving parts, to your point. I see
Right.
a infrastructure that needs to be built. I see a park policy and fees and rules that needs to be developed and finalized. I see maintenance issues that need to be delegated and who's doing that. So there's different parts, and I think a lot of people feel held up because we don't have a final plan on just the permits,
Well, the only
right?
Yeah.
The only thing I'd add to that would be, kind of combining your 2 points is, this is a local law. If you're making changes, you have to file it with Albany, right? So, that's the one reason why you don't want to just chop it up too much, because are you just changing this and then 2 weeks later you're changing this?
Exactly.
And you're
So-
filing.
Exactly.
So,
Okay.
And we're almost at
It doesn't
that.
mean, I don't know, for the sake of fees, though, we did, not build in fee
We
structures
have fee-
exactly.
we have-
Exactly, that we
right.
can do that by ordinance or whatever.
Fees we can do by resolution.
Resolution.
Okay.
yeah, but we can't do it because, we don't have the structure in the law for
Exactly.
fees. The law says the only money we can collect, according to that law, is for deposits. So that was the reason that we couldn't put that fee schedule in, because the law doesn't allow us to have a fee for the rental of the parks.
We
So-
are really almost,
It's very frustrating.
we're really almost there, okay? So,
That's what happened last time. We were responding to the problem.
Well, maybe, might I suggest that Maria incorporate the latest comments that everybody has sent her,
I get it.
that perhaps, Maria, then you send that to me. I'll clean it up and return it to you for presentation to the board. Would that-
Perfect.
would
I
that
think
make
that's a
sense?
great
That
idea.
sounds- That sounds like a great idea. Thank you, Howard. At least we can start there. I mean, all we're saying is that all these moving parts, just like every department has all these moving parts, right? Rob has all these moving parts. Deborah has all these moving parts, and recreation has all these moving parts. And
Yeah, with the
they're
staff of
particularly
one person.
Well,
special,
that's the point.
right?
That's
Not
the-
even. Right, but still, they're there. You can't make them go away, right?
No.
I mean,
It's gotta
they're
be.
still all the moving parts that you have,
Within
but
the
we have
scale
to
of
somehow. So that's all I'm
I
saying.
think we
that-
got a plan for 2
Yes.
weeks from now.
Yes,
I will do a
Sounds
much
good to me.
deeper dive And,
I mean, if we'll get this draft back, it's quite possible we can look at it in 2 weeks, and if we got it right, or there are only minor changes, we might be done,
Which would be great.
which would be
Yeah,
great.
that'd be
I am
wonderful.
Yeah. Sounds good, you
I
guys.
like ending on that will be great.
Yeah, that would be great, believe me.
And listen, I have a couple more days of vacation and I don't want to have
Yeah,
to.
that's what you
Wait,
I
thought.
want
wait,
to
no,
just like,
We expect the
Beach.
draft,
Let's all just say, that will be great.
we expect you to turn in your homework when
I
you
come back
return.
on Thursday. I mean Wednesday night. So yeah, so after Wednesday, you'll have me. But right now,
We
the
got our
Jersey
chief
Shore
parks
has me.
maintainer ready to run, and I don't blame him.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Rob,
Enough
you've been
going
really
around.
diligent, and poor Marissa, she can't get away because we have a chain to that computer. All right, thank
Good
you.
night, Rob.
Good night.
So we're gonna continue this in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Are we ready for the ever popular adjournment?
Yes.
This is just
Okay.
starting to get fun. It's great.
Oh, well, I'm gonna make it even
Okay.
more fun.
You can stay.
I'm gonna make a
Come on.
motion to adjourn this meeting
I
at
second.
9:41. I didn't even say 9:41. And Deidre, she seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
9:41, write that down. Okay, no further
Thank you.
discussion.
Bye, everybody.
I just went deaf.
Have fun.